to flip a coin and make your wish. It was in 1515 that the Portuguese arrived in Timor, originally called Timor, which means east. At the very beginning, they carried the abundant sandalwood, highly sought in Europe for the manufacture of luxury furniture and perfumes. In the 17th century, after losing the Moluccas and the Malacca, and expelled by the Dutch from the Sulawesi island, Portuguese explorers returned to Timor and found a Portuguese community. Timor then became the basis of their activities. The first contacts with China were not successful. For some time, Portuguese discoverers were forced to smuggle valuable Chinese porcelains and silks from Malacca. But the time came when they were able to take advantage of the unfriendly relationship between Japan and China by offering their services as intermediaries. The demand for Chinese silk was so high and the potential for trade was so strong that the mandarins did not hesitate to establish commercial agreements with the Portuguese. Trade with Japan then became protected by well-equipped government ships, and maritime piracy almost disappeared. As a reward, by 1553 the Portuguese kingdom was granted the everlasting lease of Macau. Through Macau, new goods were introduced in China. Portuguese traditional samosas led to the Chinese pancake. They also introduced sweet potato in the Chinese metropolis, which became the main food in the Guangdong province. From China, the Portuguese brought tea, which was later introduced in England by Catherine of Braganza when she married Charles II. We are in 1543. Let us look at Japan. The adventure starts with a violent storm and a ship that was dragged into the coast. The local governor welcomed the weird-looking explorers, and the Portuguese Francisco Zimoto offered him his musket. This moment, happening on your right, had an irreversible impact on the pacification of the rising Sun Empire. The delicate Japanese were surprised by the Portuguese rude manners. They called them Nabanjin, meaning South Barbarians. Portuguese started traveling to Japan, exchanging Chinese silks and gold for silver, copper, lacquered objects, and swords. The relationship has been so strong that it still remains today. The first Japanese grammar was written by the Portuguese, and the new words were introduced such as obrigado, which means arigato in Japanese. The same happened with Chinese tea, which was highly appreciated in Japan by that time. Liturgical rites were introduced in the traditional Chanayu ceremony by Portuguese missionaries, a true symbiosis of cultures. In April 1500, the Armada headed by Pedro Álvares Cabral found the land of Vera Cruz. Pero Vaz da Caminha registered that amazing moment when two strange worlds communicated for the first time. They are brown-skinned, of quite a reddish complexion, with handsome faces and noses. They stand naked, with no clothing. No resistance was offered, and they presented us with ivory, precious stones, and gold. Not even the Catholic liturgical rites scared them. Soon, this land became known as Brazil, since there were many trees with reddish-brown trunk that seemed to be burning. In Portuguese, this is described by the word brasa, which means on fire. With all the attention focused on India, It was only after 1534 that King John III started to pay attention to the settlement in the Brazilian territory and to the development of sugar and mining industries. Sugarcane was grown and sugar mills were built in all captainships, from São Vicente to Pernambuco. But let us go back to the letter sent to the King of Portugal, and to the true intention of the Portuguese adventure in these lands, a search for gold and other mineral wealth. For many years, expeditions were sent into the woods to search for metals and precious stones, but with no success. The first significant discoveries happened in the late 16th century. With the discovery of gold and diamond mines, thousands of Portuguese migrated to Brazil, and Portuguese became the national language. And others that will pass by the Portuguese legacy, and the shields whisper to the unending ocean that the boundless sea is Portuguese.